Chapter 2. Old Colonel Pickett, the cattle king, was out riding the range. The night before, he had seen the new moon descending over the white cone of Pickett's Peak. "I saw the last moon over Frank's Peak," said he, "and the luck was against me for a month, so I reckon now it's my turn." Next morning his luck began. A letter came from Washington granting his request that a post office be established at his ranch, and containing in the polite inquiry, "What name do you suggest for the new post office?" The colonel took down his new rifle, a 45-90 repeater. "May as well," he said. "This is my month." And he rode up the Grey Bull to see how the cattle were doing. As he passed under the Rimrock Mountain, he heard a faraway roaring as bulls fighting, but thought nothing of it until he rounded the point and saw on the flat below a lot of his cattle pawing the dust and bellowing as they usually do when they smell the blood of one of their number. He soon saw the Great Bull. The boss of the bunch was covered with blood. His back and sides were torn as by a mountain lion, and his head was battered as though by another bull. "Grizzly," growled the colonel, for he knew the mountains. He quickly noted the general direction of the bull's back trail, then rode towards a high bank that offered a view. This was across the gravelly ford of the Grey Bull, near the mouth of the Piney. His horse splashed through the cold water and began jerkingly to climb the other bank. As soon as the rider's head rose above the bank, his hand grabbed for the rifle, for there in full view were 5 grizzly bears, an old one and 4 cubs. "Run for the woods," growled Mother Grizzly, for she knew that men carried guns. Not that she feared for herself, but the idea of such things happen among her darlings was too horrible to think upon. She set off to guide them to the timber tangle of the lower pine, but a murderous, awful fusillade began. Bang! And the Mother Grizzly felt a deadly pain. Bang! And poor little Fuzz rolled over with a scream of pain and lay still. With a roar of hate and fury, Mother Grizzly turned to attack the enemy. Bang! And she fell paralyzed, dying, with a high shoulder shot. And the 3 little cubs, not knowing what to do, ran back to their mother. Bang! Bang! And Mooney and Frizzle sank in dying agonies beside her, and Wub, terrified, stupefied, ran in circles around them. Then, hardly knowing why, he turned and dashed for the timber tangle, and disappeared as a last bang left him with a stinging pain and a useless broken hind paw. That is why the post office was called 4 Bears. The colonel seemed pleased with what he had done. Indeed, he told of it himself. But, away up in the woods of Anderson Peak that night, a little lame grizzly might have been seen wandering, limping along, leaving a bloody spot each time he tried to set down his hind paw, whining and whimpering, "Mother, mother, oh mother, where are you?" For he was cold and hungry and had such a pain in his foot. But there was no mother to come to him, and he dared not go back to where he had left her, so he wandered aimlessly among the pines. Then he smelled some strange animal smell and heard heavy footsteps, and not knowing what else to do, he climbed a tree. Presently a band of great, long-necked, slim-legged animals, taller than his mother, came by under the tree. He had seen such once before, and had not been afraid of them then because he had been with his mother. But now he kept very quiet in the tree, and the big creatures stopped picking the grass where they were near him, and, blowing their noses, ran out of sight. He stayed in that tree till near morning, and then he was so stiff with cold that he could scarcely get down. But when the warm sun came, he felt better as he sought about for berries and ants, and was quite hungry. Then he went back to the piney and put his wounded foot into the icy cold water. He wanted to get back to the mountains again, but still felt he must go to where he had left his mother and brothers. And when afternoon grew warm, he went limping down the stream through the timber and down on the banks of the Grey Bull until he came to the place where yesterday they had the fish feast, and he eagerly crunched the heads and remains that he had found. But there was an odd, horrid smell on the wind. It frightened him, and as he went down to where last he had seen his mother, the smell grew worse. He peeped out cautiously at the place and saw there was a lot of coyotes tearing at something. What it was he did not know, but he saw no mother, and the smell that sickened and terrified him was worse than ever. So he quietly turned back towards the timber tangle of the lower pine, and never more came back to look for his lost family. He wanted his mother as much as ever, but something told him it was of no use. As cold night came down, he missed her more and more, and he whimpered as he limped along, a miserable, lonely little motherless bear. Not lost in the mountains, for he had no home to seek, but so sick and lonely, and with such pain in his foot and in his stomach, craving for the drink that would never more be his. That night he found a hollow log and crawled into it, and tried to dream that his mother's great furry arms were round about him, and he snuffled himself to sleep. End of chapter 2.